Hello, and welcome back. In this series, I've covered 3 of the 5 attributes the Creator must have to create the universe. Before I discuss the next attribute, let me take a moment and recap some of the things I've talked about thus far. My goal has been to determine the minimum number of attributes the Creator must have to create the universe. The extent of the Creator's abilities should be beyond what can physically be measured. By using the universe as a standard to measure against, I can avoid relying on man-made theologies or biased beliefs about God. I want to focus on people in the past who, theoretically, never heard the idea of God or gods, and consider what they would be capable of understanding. Would they be able to know there's an order to the universe? If presented with the evidence, would they be capable of knowing the Creator exists? In this way, I can remove our modern viewpoints from the equation and consider the Creator objectively. If primitive people can reason and understand the necessary evidence for these attributes without being duped, then this should be enough evidence for us as well. The attributes discussed thus far are all-powerful, all-knowing, and unchanging. The Creator's supernatural power must exceed the physical power we observe in the universe. This means he should have ultimate control over the laws of nature. His knowledge and understanding must be beyond any mortal person's ability to obtain. This means the Creator should have access to knowledge no one can know, such as foreknowledge of the future. And finally, he must be an agent of order to form an orderly universe based on the observed precision of these natural laws, which he himself would have established. The Creator's abilities must go beyond what can normally be obtainable by physical people, meaning the Creator himself must have an unchanging natural order. His unchanging nature would need to be demonstrated over an extended amount of time. From these first 3 attributes, I can reason the Creator's 4th attribute. This attribute is his oneness. There can only be one Creator of the universe. Coming from a Western culture, it's almost a given there could only be one God. But just because an idea is an old idea or culturally popular doesn't mean we should accept it on face value. Instead, let's reason through this and see why this is the case. In discussing this attribute with you, let me use a thinking tool I learned back when I was a physics student. In physics, we examine things at the extreme limits. How small can a star be? And how large can an atom get? And so forth. If I say to you, there can only be one, then you, as a physicist, would immediately ask, what would happen if there were 2? Remember, the Creator thus far is defined by these previous 3 attributes, all-powerful, all-knowing, and unchanging. What would it be like if there were 2 Creators? Both would need to be all-powerful, all-knowing, and have this unchanging nature. If both were all-powerful, could there be power the other lacked? If so, then one of the 2 couldn't be the Creator. Does one of them have knowledge the other can't obtain? If something is knowable by one, but the other lacks the ability to have this knowledge, then one of the 2 can't be the Creator. If both have power beyond the universe and knowledge exceeding natural understanding, and both established an orderly universe, both being in total control of their own ability, would they ever disagree with each other? Could one decide to create the universe differently than the other? If so, that would indicate one of the 2 lacks knowledge, or has a different perspective, or lacks an ability the other has. If one Creator appeared displaying these attributes, then the other appeared sometime later, will we ever be able to tell the difference between these 2 beings? Both would be one and the same, and would be identical to us. Both would have power beyond measure, knowledge beyond our ability, and both in perfect agreement. The only way we could make a distinction between these two beings would be if the Creator himself made the distinction for us. Therefore, the Creator's oneness is necessary for these attributes to be true. This is a pretty simple explanation for this attribute, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. In the next video, I'll be covering the last of these attributes. The following one I've alluded to throughout this series, and it's just as important as the others. So brace yourselves for that. Like all the episodes in this series, I would like to conclude talking to Christian believers. If this is the end of the video for you, then before you go, I'd like to say thank you for watching. Goodbye for now. I made a statement I would like to discuss a little further with you. I said the only way we could make a distinction between two beings, both being the Creator, would be if the Creator himself made the distinction for us. This, of course, hints to the Trinity aspect of God. God exists in multiple personifications, and yet we could only ever perceive one God. Jesus describes this aspect in John 14:9. Jesus said to him, "Have I been with you so long, and you still do not know me, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. But the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, or else believe on account of the works themselves." And again, Jesus says, "I and the Father are one." John 10:30. From our limited physical perception, we can't make any distinction on our own between the multiple personifications of God. We are natural, but God is supernatural. There are, however, some key scriptures where God makes the distinction for us for our benefit. Therefore, the Jews sought all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but also said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. Then Jesus answered and said to them, "Most assuredly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For whatever he does, the Son also does in like manner. For the Father loves the Son, and shows him all things that he himself does, and he will show him greater works than these, that you may marvel. For as the Father raises the dead and gives life to them, even so the Son gives life to whom he will. For the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son, that all should honor the Son just as they honor the Father. He who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him." John 5:18. Here, Jesus first describes the sameness of the Father and the Son by stating both the Father and the Son give life. And also, God makes the distinction between the Father and the Son by stating the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son. And again, God makes a distinction in Matthew 3:17 when he says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And again, Jesus makes the distinction between himself and the Father by stating, "But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." Mark 13:32. And lastly, Jesus makes the distinction between himself and the Father by making himself nothing, taking on flesh in human likeness. We could never measure this multifold nature of God from the scale of the universe. Yet it makes sense that an immaterial God wouldn't be bound to a single personification. His only limit would be eternity. Also, the fact we wouldn't know this aspect unless God chose to reveal himself in this way means there's much more than these 5 attributes the Creator can reveal about His nature. Thank you for watching.